be. Then we'll bring you back over here for some closing remarks, question and answer. Okay? That's how the evening is going to run. I'd like to welcome our guests. First of all, from Junior, representing Tier 1. We'll explain what all that means if you don't know already. Representing Tier 1, Doug Christensen is here. Doug. And Bob Fallon is here as well, both from the USHL. We were supposed to have Craig Barnett from North American Hockey League, but North American Hockey League is based in Texas, and he got stuck in Dallas tonight. His plane is grounded. The next flight out, I think, is 8:30 or 9, so he's obviously not going to make it. We'll try to make up for that and fill that gap. I know Kyle has some remarks he might be able to make to help us with that. But we also have from College Hockey Inc., Kyle Lawson. I guess I'm touching this inadvertently, sorry. And Kyle Lawson will speak to NCAA and ACHA, or American Collegiate Hockey Association, opportunities for you. And lastly, we'll have a short presentation by Dr. Peroth, who is also suffering with the traffic that we're having right now. Are there any girls in here now? Girl hockey players, female hockey players? Good, because they're in a different session with Tony Catchy in 2 other rooms. I wanted to give you a little bit of the lay of the land. Then we'll talk about the junior hockey option, college hockey, concussion awareness. Then we'll have our open house and, again, some closing remarks. Everybody's got this college hockey dream. I think everybody does. Where it is you really want to play in college. And it used to be, some years ago, we would talk to 3% of you. Meaning that's how many of the kids in this room could actually qualify to play NCAA D1 hockey, because that was always the target. Today, life is a lot different. The hockey landscape is a lot different. There are greater opportunities available, and Kyle will speak to those. But I also want to make you aware that junior hockey is also available to you. Now, junior hockey is generally for 18, 19, 20-year-olds, those 3 age groups, sometimes 17. If you're phenomenal and you're 15 years old and your name is Wayne Gretzky, you can go do whatever you want, whenever you want. That's not the case with most of us. But what junior hockey can afford is an opportunity to mature, both in your hockey and maybe in your life, your personality, and help you enhance your grade point if you happen to go to a junior college and play hockey play hockey as well. But there's actually, in junior hockey, there's several layers here. It comes in what I call 3 flavors, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. I won't get into a lot of detail. I'm sure these gentlemen will talk more on the subject. But Tier 1, there's only one Tier 1 in the United States. Don't be confused by A, B, C. We have Tier 1, and that's the United States Hockey League. It's not a pay-to-play, and that is, without a doubt, the best of the best. And we have Tier 2, which is the North American Hockey League. There is not another Tier 2 in the United States. There is only the North American Hockey League. Now, when you get to Tier 3, Tier 3 is a little bit different animal. It's pay-to-play. You pay to play there. The other 2 you do not. Tier 1 and Tier 2, you do not. But in Tier 3, you pay to play, and there are teams everywhere, in my opinion, maybe too many. This list I put up here, this is just a list of the leagues. And one of them, I think, is split. Isn't the Premier split now? Split out of the EJ? Yeah. So add another one. In any case, there are a lot of choices, a lot of things in this pay-to-play world that you need to know about, to be aware of. If you're considering a pay-to-play option, you need to talk to me or talk to one of the AHAI directors to get a little bit of insight, okay? There are 2 choices when it comes to college, 2 levels. There's either the NCAA, which we'll pretty much call the big time, or the ACHA, which is the American Collegiate Hockey Association. That's what we'll call club sports. There are some damn good hockey teams playing club, ACHA, D1. They have 3 divisions. D1, or M1 I think it is, right? M1, M2, and M3. Not to be confused with NCAA, D1, D2, and D3. It's all very confusing. But one are varsity sports, the NCAA are varsity sports, and the ACHA are club sports. But there are some really phenomenal hockey players and hockey teams in that D1 ACHA. One of them is right here in Chicago, Robert Morris. They're here next door. If you want to talk to them, they can tell you about the program. They offer a number of programs, so you need to be very specific with them. They have a D1, D2, and D3. They have something in Peoria, 3 teams up here, 2 girls teams up here, another team in Springfield, so you need to be sure and be poignant about your questions when you talk with them. As I said, college hockey comes in just these 2 flavors. But there are, what's important on this slide is there are 400 plus ACHA programs, D1, D2, and D3, or M1, M2, and M3 programs for you to choose from. Look at your schools. Then look at the ACHA website and see how many of the schools that you're thinking about have a program. There's something for almost every single one of you in this room. Some of you are hotshots. Some of you are going to go the NCAA route. Some of you are going to be that good. Some of you are not. Not everybody can do that, but there's an opportunity there for almost every one of you. What I'd like to do now is have Doug Christensen come up and talk about the junior option, particularly Tier 1. Doug represents the United States Hockey League. Doug?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Can everybody hear me if I don't use the mic?
Good.
Yes, maybe? Okay. Let's get a sign of support. If you play or want to play Division I college hockey, please raise your hand. If you're a parent and you are unsure of how that process actually works, please raise your hand. Okay, clearly I'm in the right room, which is where I want to be. I'll give you a little bit of a background about myself. I played at Union College. I graduated. My brother played at Union College as well. We're both very proud alums after the national championship. But we both played junior hockey. I played in the United States Hockey League in Green Bay. There now who's Don Granato, who's the head coach of the development program. My brother played in Omaha, and he also played in Billings. And as a family, we went through the same hurdles. We went through the same questions. I was the older son and had to really figure out which direction I was going to go. And for us, we didn't know. We were from a non-traditional hockey market in a lot of ways in Milwaukee. And for us, it was a situation where we had to ask a lot of questions. I think for you guys, all of you, for the parents who are here of 98s, I think it's fantastic. Educating yourselves, and I think for those of you who are 99s, 2000s, 2001s, I think it's fantastic. The earlier you're here, better off you're going to wind up being in your process, and you really do need to educate yourself as to what your options are. And for those of you who are interested in Division I college hockey, and that's your primary goal, we feel very strongly about the product that we put on the ice. 92% of last year's Division I college hockey players played junior hockey at some level. So for you as parents and for you as kids, you should be thinking that junior hockey is most likely in your future. And so therefore it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort for you guys to figure out what the best route is for you. And we're going to try to do our best tonight to educate you both in this setting, but then we'll also be available. We also have Scott McConnell, who's the head coach of the Chicago Steel, I coach a AAA team, and we were playing in Green Bay this past weekend, and I basically forced our team to go to the USHL game. I think it's really important for them to see the quality of hockey, and I can't tell you how many parents came up to me and said, oh my goodness, those kids are only 3 or 4 years older than my kid. And I think that that's something that for you as parents should see. Taking a steel game, I know what the Bauer event coming up in early November, they've got a game against Waterloo on a Thursday night, so hopefully a lot of you can get there to see the quality of hockey that's out there because it's awfully impressive. I put up there, make the educated decision. That's a lot of it is about our league, but it's also about understanding who you are as a hockey player, what your options may or may not be, and then understanding if it's the best situation for you and for your family, because it is a situation that can be a bit complex. We're both here to try to educate you as much as we can, but we'll walk through a little bit more about the USHL as we work through here. First thing, one of the things the USHL allows you to do, it allows you to play your hand longer. For those of you who are hockey players, and for those of you who are parents, you don't really know if your kid is a pocket sevens, a pair of aces, or a 2-7 offsuit. And if you don't play poker, please ask somebody who does. I don't have time to explain it all to you, but really what it allows you to do is before you put all your chips in the middle of the table and decide that you're going to become a professional, it's pretty important to understand who your child is and who you are as a hockey player. And playing in the USHL allows you to continue that development without really getting into a situation where you're closing doors. And the USHL, one of its primary purposes is it keeps your college eligibility. And obviously Kyle here will touch a bit more on that, which I think is extremely important. Some trends that I think are really important. Over 95% of the players who play in the USHL will play Division I college hockey. That'll vary by a couple percent one way or another based on the year, but 95%. That basically means one player on your team isn't going to do it. Also means every night that you're playing an opponent, only one kid on their team. So the competitive level is extremely, extremely high, but it's obviously something that is why everybody's there. With that, 85% of Division I college hockey players earn a degree, which I think is obviously a fantastic statistic. You consider the fact that our league is putting players into Division I college hockey, those kids are going on to graduate at an extremely high rate. Factually speaking, our league is harder to play than Division I college hockey. Our league has 17 teams, Division I college has 59. The players who come through our league are extremely, extremely talented, they're extremely motivated. As we touched on before, it's primarily 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, but it is obviously a league that has a few 16-year-olds as well. Interesting note in terms of hockey trends, our league was #1 in draft picks per team at the 2014 entry draft. So in terms of not only producing college players, we're producing pros as well and prospective pros. To give you a little bit of an idea, in terms of Tier 1, we are at the top of the pyramid. Obviously, as we touched on before, there's pay-to-play leagues. We are not one. You come to our league and the reward for all those 6 a.m. car trips to rural Iowa and to Wisconsin and to Detroit is the fact that your kids for the first time get free equipment and a free place to live. Obviously what they do from that, as this slide alludes to, whether they go on to play Division I college hockey or they wind up playing Division III or go straight to the NHL as a player from our league did last year, those are obviously where we sit in the overall scheme. What is Tier 1? It's obviously been touched on a bit, but the biggest part about it is it's not a play for play. You drop your kid off and you can, other than his spending money, and his housing family is taken care of, his setup in terms of equipment is taken care of, his travel, his ice time, all the things that you've been shelling out thousands of dollars for is now paid for by somebody else, which for everybody is a really nice thing. It's obviously a great reward for the player to be able to give back to his family, to say that he worked hard enough to earn that opportunity, and it's obviously nice for the family to be able to maybe go on a vacation or do something else instead of all those cold rinks that you've been in all along. Some numbers. I think that this is a really interesting slide. It's very indicative of where we are in the marketplace as a league. Last year there are 316 commitments to Division I college hockey and from our league, and 40% of Division I college hockey players last year were USHL alumni. Obviously we can't have the whole league considering we only have 17 teams going into 59 teams, but it gives you an indication of the quality of hockey players coming through. Going further past that, 240 USHL alumni under NHL contract, 112 of those played in the NHL last year. That sets a new record for our league, and it was the 11th consecutive year a USHL alum won the Stanley Cup. Going on further, I'm going to actually start at the bottom and work my way up, because one of the things I think is really important is that I played in USHL in 97 and 98. My brother played in 2006, and the league's changed. This is not your father's USHL anymore. This is not your older brother's. This is a whole new league, and Tier 1 has raised it to a new level. And so when you're looking at the trends of hockey, it's a pretty good indication of where we're going. In 2010, 22 players are selected in the NHL entry draft. 2011, 28 plus 9 alumni. 2012, 28 and 10 alumni with 6 first-round selections. 2013, 32 players with 9 alumni selected. 2014, 35, 16 alumni. That would have been second best for league in the world. And this year we have 54 who are rated to be going. That, not including the 6 alumni, including 1 who might be the first overall draft pick. So to give you an indication of the direction that the league is going, it's getting bigger, it's getting better as people are educating themselves about the options that they have, that not only can their kid get a degree, but he can also play in the National Hockey League, which is all the kids' dreams, and coupled with the NCAA education, that obviously ticks a lot of boxes for the parents. To that end, we have 21 players who were drafted in last year's draft playing in the USHL this year, so obviously your kid would be playing against those top players. And also an interesting local note, last year 4 of the first 5 picks of the Chicago Blackhawks were USHL alums or players in the league. That's obviously an indication, and as was touched on in a lot of interviews afterwards, how they want their players to come and they want them to be more mature and being able to step in right away, which is exactly what we're offering. Obviously, here's a few pictures of kids with jerseys on. For those of you in the back, it's just a bunch of kids with jerseys on. But for those of you who know them, fantastic. But it's an indication of what a lot of these kids are dreaming of. Here's a number of players playing in the league and then now where they are in the National Hockey League. Pavelski, Wisconsin guy. I'm obviously from Wisconsin and I'm a big Packer fan, so go Pack. I've never miss a chance when you're in Illinois. Obviously Patrick Sharp, that's going to be the most recognizable face that you have there locally, but you've got a lot of top NHL players who come through our league who have now made a career. For those of you who are in Illinois, this is a much easier slide than when I speak out west. Your kid gets to stay pretty close to home. Obviously with 2 teams in the league, we've got Scott McConnell who's here from the Steel. You're going to have an opportunity, whether he's in a different city, in a different state, but they're going to be able to come through and you're going to be able to see them here. Maybe they'll be lucky enough to stay here for you as they're going on to their next journey. Coaching staff, a couple things I think are really interesting. It's the first time that your kid most likely is going to have not only a coach, but coaches whose full-time job is to coach them and to make them better. That's obviously not only on the ice, but off the ice. That's in the weight room, that's nutrition, that's video analysis, but that's also being a mentor for them and helping to guide them. And I think that's a real issue, that it is basically playing pro hockey when they're out of high school, that they're going, they're playing, they're training, they're being fully committed to their job, which is to play hockey. And for those kids who are in high school, they have all of that and they're going to school. So they're learning to really budget their time and be a committed athlete and prepare them for when they get to college, when they're going to be doing the exact same thing, where they're going to have workouts, classwork, and obviously games on the weekend. The league plays a 60-game schedule. Obviously every game matters. With a schedule like that, the games are on the weekend primarily, which I think is something that I'll touch on the statistic on a little bit later, which for those of you who are very academically oriented parents, which is what my parents were, they don't miss a lot of school, which is something that for everybody is very, very important. Moving on, this is a stat that blew me away. $250 million will be spent on improving the facilities that our teams play in, which is mind-blowing in a lot of ways, but I think it's a real testament to the growth of the league. And obviously they're playing and having full-time training facilities, weight rooms, and excellent locker rooms. Touching on an earlier point, we obviously have all of your kids' equipment is free. Free is good for everybody. I don't care how rich you are, everybody appreciates free. And obviously our sponsorship with CCM and Reebok makes that possible for us. Kids travel, one of the questions we get asked a lot is how do we get from place to place? They aren't your yellow school buses. These are obviously state-of-the-art buses, televisions, tables, and obviously, as you can see in the Youngstown bus here, bunk beds, which for players is pretty important as they're going from one city to the next, preparing to play their next game. A few things about the fans, which is obviously a lot of fun. I know that when I was looking at playing, I used to pinch myself and be like, 4,000 people are going to watch me play. I'm 18 years old. I thought it was ridiculous. But it's fantastic. For 15 seasons, 1 million people have attended games. Obviously, you've got fantastic arenas and rinks throughout the Midwest. And one really interesting tidbit, and this is the first time this has ever been stated, just on Saturday night, 10,678 people watched Sioux Falls play against Waterloo, opening Sioux Falls' $130 million facility, which is the largest crowd ever at an indoor event in the state of South Dakota. So obviously a fantastic achievement, and obviously shows a lot about how the league has grown. Again, touched on it, 28-week, 60-game regular season.
good hockey player. You do have that character. You are that special person. That's why they're taking you. They're not taking you because, I don't know, Daddy's the coach of whatever. My dad used to play in the USHL himself. He played the NHL. Doesn't matter. They take you because you're a good hockey player and a good kid. And that's the only reason they take you. When you're paying to play, you have a right to say, hey, my kid gets to play. I get to play. I paid for this. The game changes when you go to Tier 2 and Tier 1 junior hockey and beyond. Sorry, that's all the comments that I'll make about Tier 2 and Tier 3. If you have any questions, though, I'll be glad to answer them later. We'll come back for some closing remarks. What I'd like to do, though, is bring up Kyle Lawson to talk about the opportunities in college hockey, NCAA and ACHA. Kyle?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike and AHAI for having us out. I'm sure some of the kids in the room have seen my presentation before, so it's going to just be more of a speaking engagement, and hopefully you guys will have some questions in the rooms next door. But quickly give a brief background about myself and my history, and how I came to be with College Hockey Inc., and then we'll get into college hockey and as far as the pathways that your families and sons will potentially have as an option over the next couple of years. Again, my name is Kyle Lawson. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and spent most of my time with Detroit Honey Baked. But with the politics of youth hockey, I did spend a year at Little Caesars and CompuWare as well. So I kind of made my rounds, and I'm sure some of you guys are in the same boat with the teams here in Chicago. But majority of my time was with Honey Baked up until my sophomore year of high school. I was invited to the National Team Development Program's Top 40 camp. For anyone who doesn't know, the national team is based out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's actually where our offices are now. We have 3 different offices in Boston, Minnesota, and then Ann Arbor. And it's basically what USA Hockey views as the top 40 kids, top 20 kids in 2 different age groups. And so they have a U17 team and a U18 team. The U17 team plays the majority of their games in the USHL, and the U18 team plays about half their games in the USHL, and the other half against exhibition games against Division I schools. And so in order to be selected, they'll invite you during your sophomore year, and they actually carry 8 defensemen. I was a defenseman. It was going in, they say that all spots were open, but to be honest, there's probably about 2, going in, they had their locks. And so it's the last day of camp, and a guy by the name of Ken Martell called me in the office. He says, Kyle, you're a pretty good player, you had a pretty good camp, there's one problem. He goes, you're way too fat. And I was. It was about 240 pounds, believe it or not, in 10th grade. I was about the same height as I am now, so basically I'd skate straight down the ice. All you guys would bounce off of me, and everyone thought I was pretty good back then. But regardless, I was pretty disappointed, and I think kind of cliche, but I think it can speak to all the kids in the room. When you work hard, you do the right thing. It's pretty amazing how things tend to work out in your favor. And so that year I went back to Honey Baked, focused on the training, focused on my conditioning, and that following year, going into the U18 year, a guy by the name of David Quinn was the head coach. He left to be the assistant coach at Boston University, and one of the defensemen, a kid from Alaska, was a little homesick and decided to leave the team. And so with Honey Baked, our nationals happened to be out in Boston that year, and the guy that they decided to bring in as the head coach was a guy by the name of Ron Rolston. He was an assistant coach at Boston College at the time, and was the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres for about 20 games there until they got canned. But about a week before I was actually getting ready to leave for Cedar Rapids in the USHL, I got a call from Coach Rolston, and decided to take advantage of that opportunity. And so then during that year, I committed to the University of Notre Dame. Another unique story that I think is important for everyone in the room is following that year, I was the only kid off of that U18 team that didn't go into college as a true freshman. I got a call from Coach Jackson. He said, Kyle, this is my second year here. We're trying to change the culture. We want you to go take a year off in the USHL. And, I'm not going to lie, coming out of the program, you might have, your head might be a little bit bigger than it needs to be. And so I definitely wasn't happy. But what I would share with you in that experience is that be patient, you know, enjoy it and don't be in a rush. And that's for everyone in the room. I know it's easy to get caught up in the process and, you know, playing up a level, or I'm not playing enough, my coach is, you know, screwing me, or I need to get to the different organization while I have a better opportunity. And, you know, and it's not about next year, guys. It's truly about, you know, where you're at, you're 22, 23, you know, because ultimately if your dream is to play in the NHL or Division I college hockey, it's going to happen probably a lot later than most of you realize, you know, and we'll get into some of the numbers towards the end. But, you know, I went to the USHL for that year, and then, you know, I was at Notre Dame from 2006 to 2010. I was able to play a couple years in the minor leagues until I quit to take this position with College Hockey Inc. So that's just my background, you know, and the biggest reason I tell you guys is I was in your shoes. You know, I know I was in Detroit, but the youth landscape is in Chicago and in Illinois is very similar to that of Detroit. And so, you know, hopefully, you know, any questions you guys may have, you feel comfortable because of my history and ability to relate to you. But moving on to College Hockey Inc., our company was formed in 2009 in partnership with the NHL as well as USA Hockey. Basically, the way that it works is the NHL generates quite a bit of money, and they give an equal grant both to USA Hockey as well as Hockey Canada under the stipulation, do what you want with the money, as long as you're promoting the game of hockey. And so, you know, I don't want to get into major junior too much, but a big reason why College Hockey College Hockey Inc. was created was this thing called major junior, and it's different from the USHL Tier 1, and what it is it's made up of 3 leagues, the Canadian Hockey League. There's 3 leagues in Major Junior. It's the Western Hockey League, the Ontario Hockey League, and then the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And those 3 leagues have broken down the United States geographically. So a kid in Western, you know, in the Western United States and California could only be drafted by the WHL. So you guys don't need to be concerned with all 3 leagues. I assume you guys, most of you would be, you know, property of the OHL, so you need to be concerned as far as the OHL. But in the eyes of the NCAA, they consider those 3 leagues professional because you're actually paid to play, and if you accept that money, you lose your amateur status, and then therefore forfeit your NCAA eligibility. And the reason to be, you know, cognizant of that is because a Division I school cannot contact you guys until January 1st of your grade 10 year of high school. And so what USA Hockey found out was happening is that every single one of those 3 leagues in Major Junior has a draft prior to January 1st of the grade 10 year. So a lot of times what was happening is these kids were being drafted and offered contracts prior to a Division I school being able to recruit you guys. And so with that being said, I'll touch on it more at the end, but it's very important that if you want to play college hockey in the landscape of how competitive it is today, is that you guys take the initiative, you identify some schools that you might be interested in, and reach out to them to let them know, because I can promise you, even though they can't contact you, you know, they start looking at kids as soon as they enter high school. So even though, you know, they're not reaching out to you during 9th and 10th grade, they're not only looking at your play on the ice, but I can promise you they're looking at your Twitter, they're looking at your Facebook, and they're looking what kind of student you are as well. So, you know, it's kind of an all-encompassing approach, but, you know, it's definitely important to also reach out to them to let them know that you are interested in potentially going to school. Just so you guys know, our company represents the 59 Division I schools, and I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but realistically there might be, you know, I'll be generous and say 5 kids in the room who are going to play for those 59 teams. Okay, as you know, it's touched on in the USHL. It's very, very competitive. It truly is an international game now. You know, I think even the USHL will say that they have kids coming from overseas to play in their league. There's a ton more international students in Division I college hockey, and as you guys know, there's quite a few Europeans in the NHL as well. So it's definitely very competitive, and that's not to say not to shoot for Division I and the 59 Division I schools, because you definitely should. But if you don't make it, that's okay. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with, you know, as Mike touched on a little bit before, there's over 400 options outside of the Division I level that allow you guys to not only continue to play hockey, but to get a degree. And you know, I think sometimes that gets lost as far as the importance of the education. You know, I know hockey's competitive, and that's what everyone's here for, but the real world's pretty competitive too. You know, so we'll touch on it, you know, throughout the night. But education is becoming more and more important, and you know, the ability to get that degree is pretty special. Just quickly on the 59 Division I schools, some of the things that we're extremely proud of is this past season, more than 30% of the NHL actually came from guys who developed playing college hockey. And that was actually an all-time high. You know, you go back to when I was growing up, you know, there was a belief, and there's a lot of truth to it, that if you wanted to play in the NHL, you'd have a much harder time making it playing college hockey as opposed to major junior, but that's not necessarily the case anymore. There's almost been 50% growth over the past 8 seasons, and as more and more schools continue to pick up Division I college hockey, we really believe that those numbers will trend in the right direction. And then the other one, Doug kind of stole my thunder, but if you guys play Division I college hockey, there's an 85% chance that you're going to come out of there with a degree. You know, and I know I just said it, but that's a pretty impressive number. It's actually 5th among all collegiate sports, and number 1 being fencing. And I think anytime you can mention ice hockey players with fencers, you know, we're doing something pretty good. So, you know, and believe it or not, it's actually higher than the average student population. So, you know, to get in there, be an athlete, have all those perks of being able to use the facilities and resources, not only athletically, but academically as well, is definitely a pretty unique experience. Again, on the Division I level, each school, with the exception of the Ivy League schools and a couple other Division I schools, they're only allowed 18 athletic scholarships. Okay, and so if you're an extremely good hockey player, chances are you're going to be a candidate for one of those scholarships. But if you guys are a great hockey player and a great student, you're probably going to have your pick of schools. Because if a school can offer you guys an academic scholarship as opposed to one of those athletic scholarships, you know, you're going to be a pretty hot commodity. So for you, those of you who are doing well in school, continue to do so. And even if you've maybe gotten off to a rough start, or you know, not having even started high school yet, you know, they definitely start to look at 9th grade. You know, you can't wait to turn it around during your junior or senior year. If that is the case where you struggle a little bit, you know, show progression that you are improving and maturing. But academics are definitely a huge piece. You know, again, you know, I know we focus on hockey a lot, but at the end of the day, you're a student athlete, and the student part comes first. Because if you don't have the grades, not only can you get in, but if you don't maintain your grades while you're there, you're not going to be able to play. And so, you know, academics are definitely a very important piece. And then that kind of leads me on to the options outside of Division I, because that's a huge difference. Is that only in Division I can you guys get money for your athletic abilities? You know, at D3, the club level, everything is going to be based off your academics. And so again, if you're a great student, you're going to probably have a lot more opportunities, and you're definitely going to, you know, make your parents happy, because they're going to, you know, take a load off of their pocketbooks if you're able to keep up your grades. But you know, I can't stress enough, you know, how many great opportunities there are outside of Division I. You know, if you want to play in the NHL, if that's ultimately your goal, then yes, you're probably going to want to strive for Division I. Okay, but if you simply want to get an education, continue to play, you know, D3, there's some pretty cool schools, and then especially into the club hockey, you know, you can go to some beautiful, you know, very well respected institutions that'll definitely put you a step ahead whenever your playing days ultimately come to an end. One thing that I would recommend for you guys to do now, you know, you know, you're here, you're trying to gather more information, and I can promise you guys are, you know, a lot farther ahead than the majority of people who either aren't here or aren't willing to take the time. But one thing that I would highly recommend is that if you guys go home over the next, you know, couple weeks, you sit down as a family and you identify, you know, you decide that, you know what, you know, not only juniors, but, you know, college hockey is my dream. I would identify anywhere from 5 to 20 schools that you're interested in. You know, maybe 5 dream schools, 5 schools that, you know, are more realistic as far as academics and athletics, and then 5 schools that, hey, you know what, maybe it's not the top of my list, but at least I would, you know, not only continue to get a degree, but play hockey. And so you have those 15 schools. You can go onto our website, which is just collegehockeyinc.com. We have the contact information for all 59 Division I schools, and I would recommend that you write them a handwritten letter. I know that sounds crazy to you guys today, but you do got to remember the majority of the coaches in Division I are still old school. You know, they're not totally into the social media yet. So you write a very simple handwritten letter. You know, and I'll use myself as an example. Hi, my name is Kyle Lawson. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a right-handed shot defenseman for Honey Baked. Here's my coach's contact information, and here's some of the big events that we're going to be at this year. And I would love for the opportunity for you to come watch me play. Okay, they don't want stats. They don't need highlight videos or your YouTube account of all the highlight reel goals that you scored. Ultimately, they want to know that you're a good person, a good student, and you're interested in their school. Because you let them know that, they're ultimately going to come watch you play and make their own decision. Because anyone can look pretty good on a highlight tape. So if you're wondering what to do, I know college hockey, I know junior is probably much more a realistic step for a lot of you guys as far as the next step in the process. But I can promise you this, there's a lot of other kids that are in 9th, 10th grade doing the same thing. Okay, and again, if it's prior to that January 1st of your sophomore year, they still can't respond, so don't take it the wrong way. I can promise you though that they'll create a file on you, and somewhere down the line, whether that is, your 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe it's not until your juniors, they'll have that file, and chances are if they come to watch you play, you'll at least have a star next to your name, so hopefully you get a couple more looks, and who knows, that may be the extra piece, the extra mile that you were willing to go, that'll ultimately get you, the scholarship that you guys are fighting for. And just the final piece, as I said before, we'll be here for questions, but one thing I just wanted to point out, and this is what I think this whole night's about, and believe it or not, it's about education, okay? Because if you guys are just average, and obviously everyone in the room is above average, and if you're just an average NHLer, excuse me, you're pretty darn elite. But if you're just average in the NHL, you're going to make it at 23. You'll play to your 28. But because I don't know how good you guys are, and your mommy and daddy's little bit boys, I'll give you 2 more years. Okay. But 99.9% of everyone who makes a living playing hockey is done by the time you're 30 years old. Okay. And I'm sure there's some parents, and I'm going to say probably every kid in the room thinks that they're going to be that 1%, 0.1%. But I thought I was going to be that 0.1% too. Okay, and here I am at 27, and sure it was disappointing. I had a great ride, but ultimately the most important thing is that I got that degree. Okay, I touched on it before. I'll say it again. If you come talk to me in the next room, I'll probably preach it a little bit more. The real world's competitive. Okay, and it's not to say that you can't have success without a degree. But if you have the opportunity not only to continue to play hockey, but to get your education at the same time, it truly is a very special opportunity, and something that we hope you guys continue to seek. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you guys later.
Nice job, Kyle. Thank you.